Hi, this is Eternal King here bringing you another LOR video today. So we've got day one of the new expansion, and we've already got ourselves a pretty nice Eternal Brew. So basically talking about the new list, Lilia and Lux and the way that Spirit operates is different than the way that I thought it worked. Which is a lot of it just has to do with seeing the mechanics in action and things like that. So if a card has Spirit, the unit has 1+1 guaranteed. So it basically means that you look at the stats and then you apply the number of Spirit keywords in addition to it. So this is a 1/1 Jera Lightfeather. Grant an ally in hand Spirit. So it's a 1/1 that grants another unit in hand 1/1. And the reason why that's relevant is because when cards have Spirit, they in effect there's some synergies there that are useful, specifically with Lux leveling, and also this card here, Lumino Sprite, which I'll get into in a little bit. So that's your one drop for the Spirit archetype. It's Jera Lightfeather. He's pretty good. He looks like Ezreal a little bit. One drop number two, this is just a vanilla 2/2 because it has Spirit twice, and it's so. Again, though, it is turbo leveling Lux, and that's very relevant. Inspiring Light has been updated to grant all allies Spirit. It turns out this card's pretty good now that it's been reworked. So instead of granting allies 1+1, it grants allies a positive keyword. That is in effect 1+1, but for reasons in terms of how the deck functions, it's actually much more useful in its current iteration. Lumino Sprite is your big payoff card, so the more times you can stack Spirit on this card, the more it buffs as a support unit. So if it has two spirits on it, it will buff 2+2. If it has one spirit on it, it buffs 1+1, etc., etc. So it's actually a pretty good support card for this archetype. And again, it's also turbo leveling Lux. Mr. Root is just a vanilla 1/1 that cycles and has the Spirit keyword. That's good enough in my mind. In this deck, it needs a little bit of draw, like a little bit of something there, just in case you get blown out. Petal Pixie is your go wide card. Very, very good. Instead of being like a 2/1 or a 2/2 that summons a 1/1, it's a 1/1 that summons a 2/2. So it's basically a House Spider, but it's in Ionia. And House Spider is a very good card. And also Spritelings is a very good card because it's, again, it is a vanilla 2/2, but it has the Spirit keyword, which is relevant for synergies. Incandescent, 3 mana, boost all units. So it's basically Inspiring Light, but it's 3 mana and it's at fast speed. So Incandescent is a pretty much mandatory card in this kind of go wide Ionia strategy. This is a kind of, it's basically Zoo or Weenie decks or however you want to put it, but it's in Ionia, which is pretty new for the archetype. And also, Demacia typically doesn't play quite this wide. It's more mid-range with elites. So it feels very different. In playing the deck, it feels different. It feels unique. So you'll have to give that a shot yourself. Lux Illuminated, grant my supported ally Spirit and give me Barrier this round. So again, the way that this works, and because she has Spirit herself, is she's coming down. It's a 2/3, which is actually kind of hard to remove for 3 mana. Then she's attacking. She's getting Barrier, which means, again, it's not going to trade into an Innkeeper or anything like that. Any 3/3 body, it won't trade into that because it has Barrier. And then it's granting Spirit again to the next unit, which is, good for synergies and leveling. When she's fully leveled, grant my supported ally Spirit and give me Barrier this round, which is what she already does. But then when an ally gains Spirit, it gains it again. So it doubles up on that keyword bonus. Very strong. Very, very strong. Lux Illuminated. And then her, again, she has Incandescence. And this is one of the cases of, like, a champ spell being so good and so universal for an archetype that you run it in the deck itself. It's like Morgana had a 3 mana spell that was like, again, you just run it. You run it but naturally as well because it's very, very good. Lilia is coming down as a 3/2 with Quick Attack, which isn't bad for 3 mana. And then she's also generating you a card where you can sleep an ally. Now, why would you want to sleep an ally in this deck? And again, she has Spirit. Why would you want to sleep an ally in this deck? Well, there's actually a lot of on-summon effects. So Petal Pixie is one example of a non-summon effect. Mr. Root is another example of a non-summon effect. You'll see here that we have a lot more payoffs for on-summon effects. So Sprite Mother has an on-summon effect where she summons a Spriteling, but then she also buffs all Spritelings and herself, which is quite good. So, sleeping that is actually pretty valuable. And then Tree Spirits being essentially a Bannerman in this deck. Like, it's just a straight up Bannerman. I would say it's a straight up upgrade on Bannerman, where it's just boosting all other units. Basically, the reason why it's not quite a straight upgrade on Bannerman is because boosting only works on stackable keywords. So it only works on spirit cards. So, you know, it works on itself and it works on spirit cards, but it doesn't work on something that doesn't have spirit, like this Petal Pixie 1/1, for example. But then you could also just give it spirit with Jarrow Lightfeather, and now it is a spirit card. So again, it you know, more or less is a straight upgrade to Bannerman. It's an insane card, Tree Spirits. Aberrant Mage Seeker. 5 mana, when I'm summoned, grant other allies spirit. So this is the other big spirit synergy. Comes down on 5, and then it's just boosting and giving things more copies of spirit, turbo leveling Lux, etc. And then on 6, you're running Rising Light, which is boosting all units 3 times. So once again, it's taking that spirit keyword and then boosting it 3 times. And unlike something like For Demacia, like why would you run Rising Light instead of For Demacia? This is a grant effect. Boosting is a grant effect because it's keywords are permanent and iterative keywords are also permanent. So multiple versions of Impact are permanent, multiple versions of Spirit are permanent. You know, 5 stacks of Spirit is a permanent keyword, essentially. So this is how you run this deck, and then I've got the 1 copy of Light of Demacia. I tested this card, it looked really good on paper, but in an aggro shell like this, you just can't spare the board space, so like 1 copy is fine. Don't forget to click on it as well. I didn't know how this is how it works, but you play it. You have to click on it the turn that you play it, and then the second turn you have to click on it, and the turn on the second turn, and then the third turn you have to click on it again. If you don't click on it each subsequent turn, including the turn you play it, for the story to activate, it actually does nothing. So yeah, you have to be manually clicking on the effects for it to do its job. Otherwise, it does nothing. So it's kind of interesting in terms of pro players where, like, you know, there's this added wrinkle to the game where it's like, yes, you need to have one more thing you're paying attention to, which is manually activating your stories. But yeah, 1 copy's fine. Long story short, 1 copy's fine. But make sure that you click on it the turn that you play it, and then on all subsequent turns that you're clicking on it to make sure that you're activating the effect, because you want to get rid of it as soon as possible in most instances in an aggro deck. But this is Eternal Viable. There's nothing about this deck that isn't Eternal Viable, and I would say in terms of Standard, absolutely. Like, you know, Standard's going to be all of this. Like, everything's going to be Lux Illuminated in Standard. Exceptionally powerful deck. Obviously, in a world where control tools exist like Eternal, it'll be healthy and fine, but specifically in Standard, you're going to see a lot of this deck. So yeah, day 1, Lilia Lux, Lux Illuminated Lilia deck, and this is basically more or less how the deck is going to look in its final iterations in terms of like pro players and things like that. So you saw it here first with Eternal King, and you know, be sure to check out Sunny and all of them when they inevitably, you know, copy this list in some form or another. This is Eternal King, signing out.